All right, next up we have Casey from Yooz.
Howdy, Amy.
How
And
are
howdy,
you?
Carol.
You
Uh,
ready?
oh, I'm ready. As Bill and Sarah have already said, it's going to be quick. It's going to be fast.
Quick.
But I'm glad we're recording it. We're excited to just partner
You
with
should call
you.
them flash demos, like a flash sale.
Exactly. Exactly. We're looking forward to partnering with you with your AP automation project. Use as an AP automator, and that's exactly what we did started doing since our foundational start. Our technology itself actually has come from our parent company, who has over 37 years of data extraction, workflow optimization, and data analytic experience. So what we're going to do today is just jump straight into the platform since we do have a lot to share, and we're excited to go through a more robust sales process with you, just to validate that Yooz is going to be the best fit for you or direct you in the right way. So I'm going to go ahead and log into my home screen, which will probably kick me out because it's been sitting here for a minute. Yep. And then once I log into that home screen, that home page will pop up, which is exactly what you'll see. Now, of course, we are directly connected through the Acumatica API connection. We are certified, and we're progressing that partnership with Acumatica through and through, and starting to become the most embedded that we can be. So what you'll see as the homepage populates here for Yooz is a quick snapshot of what we look at right when we get logged in. Our to-do is in the forefront, right in the middle where we want it to be, so we can see exactly what we have to lift. Anything that's been in progress, which means it's past us, invoices that have gone off for approval or even payment authorization, and who owns that document is right there or in progress as well. You'll see some other different workspaces up here as far as block complete lates and a purchase request button. Now we are a full purchase to pay solution, but we're a la carte. So if you're already doing your purchasing through Acumatica, no worry, through the API connection, we can pull over that receiver data to match against those invoices. If you need a purchasing system, great, uses that fully functioning purchase system that you can submit requests with quotes, send out the POs that have been authorized to those vendors, receive against those purchases, and then of course match it on the back end. Now, even before we get into purchasing, you may be asking, well, what about budgets? We need to set budgets for projects, for construction, or whatever budget we need to set for a particular department. We can track budgets inside of our application, which can be set up right there in our settings, where it will track what is the committed amount against that available budget, aka what purchases have been approved, and what's been invoiced against that budget, so that we can actually track that achieved percentage. A lot of construction companies out there that we work with actually like to put project quotes into a budget, so that way they make sure that they're staying on par with what they're quoting their clients. So if we go back to our My Task here, if we set our budget, we can of course do our purchase. Now, before the demonstration, just for time's sake, I already created a purchase with Grainger and I ordered 6 V-belts. And we fast forwarded the time about 3-4 days, and those V-belts came in and I did receive against those. So where we're going to start is actually bringing one additional invoice into the application. So that way we can talk about how to bring invoices in. That's through our capture workspace in the top left. If I hit my capture here, the most popular means of bringing invoices into the Yooz application, of course, is our email capture. We already have an email box that's sitting there receiving those invoices from those vendors. We can auto forward those. If it's separate attachments, we'll pull it all in as separate invoices, but maybe your vendors send in a bulk file that contains multiple invoices. We can auto ingest those and auto split those, so that way there's no manual split that you would have to do. Now, of course, other ways to ingest those files is through our file uploader, where you can drag and drop from an email, a file. We have a dedicated app where you can take a picture of your smartphone if you're still receiving multiple invoices through mail. Of course, you can do scan to email option, etc. Now, I had already brought in this PDF, which is that single file with 15 invoices, but as you saw on those homepage, it is already split out and kicked down the appropriate workflows. So for today, we're going to bring in this Grainger just to show that data extraction in real work. Just to prove that we're bringing this in real time. Amy, I'm going to actually have you pick out a color on the screen. What's your favorite color?
Well, it is yellow, if anyone knows me.
Yellow, so right there. All right. So we're going to import that particular file, and this is where our first stage of duplicate detection kicks in. It's going to look at the file size and name and see if we brought it in before. If we have, it would flag it and say, hey, you've already brought in this particular file. If it was a corrected invoice that we needed to reprocess, of course, we could override that. So now you see that file is doing what's called using. That's our play on words. That just means that the data extraction technology is going to work. Now, this is real-time AI-based data extraction, which means within 20 to 30 seconds, that invoice is going to be identified. All the header fields are going to be extracted. It's going to match PO data and or do GL memorization based on our machine learning capabilities to automatically identify where this invoice needs to go and where it needs to go into an approval process. Now, to give that just a couple of seconds, we will look at those approvals in our settings tab. This is where we can maintain our organization units or branches, as you call them, inside of Acumatica. And as you can see from our little pop-up here, that invoice is already ready to process. Man, wasn't that fast. You can also define your users, give them certain responsibilities inside of the application, and even restrict visibility. So if you only want them to see their particular branches that are set up in Acumatica, we can restrict that visibility. Now, of course, we can also maintain all that master data and chart of account information, which we're syncing over from Acumatica constantly. Now, inside of our workflows, we can set up workflows for really any type of document that you really want. We have customers who do employment verification forms, vendor contracts, slip and fall reports, etc., just by putting those in as other docs. But our focus today is going to be those invoices. So inside of our invoice workflows, you see we have 3 phases: the review, approve, and payment authorization. Each of these phases can have up to 9 steps, which means you can send a single invoice to 27 people within your organization before it's released for payment. Now, I hope you don't have any workflows that need 27 authorizations, but if you do, we can handle that. Now, under each of these steps, we could have unlimited amount of rules, which makes our workflows unlimited. What are some of those rules, you may ask, that we could put in place? Well, things like no-touch auto approvals. So this no-touch auto review that goes straight to approve states anything from these 10 vendors that's under $550 and is complete, which means all the required header fields have been extracted and there's a balanced GL. It can skip over the review and go straight to an approval. Once we hit that approval process, we can do things like keyword. So any keyword off an invoice that you want to dictate goes to an individual or a group, we can do that. We can also do multiple approvals for things like dollar amounts, but those aren't only series approvals. We can do parallel, which from a timing standpoint is very significant, because if you have 3 people that need to do an approval and the first person takes a week, second person takes 2 weeks, well, that third person is already 3 weeks behind. So why not send it to all 3 at the same time, so that way they can expedite that approval process, thus getting you into the realm of early pay discounts with your vendors. Now, a lot of individuals out there are like, great, I love that your system sends it to them for approval, but I'm probably going to have to still follow up with them because they don't do their approvals. Well, that's where Yooz actually has what I lovingly call nagware. We're going to send out a notification, of course, that's going to have a link that takes them directly to the invoice inside the application. Then after a certain amount of days, it's going to be marked as late and send them another notification. After a certain amount of late reminders, it can escalate past that person and notify management that they're not getting their work done. Thus, Yooz becomes that muscle for you. Now, Amy, I know what you're thinking. Well, what if someone's on vacation, medical leave, or heck, heaven forbid, like turnover or something in that particular position? Well, that's where underneath our profile, we have a delegation. You can delegate out your work for a periodicity, or an admin can delegate out somebody's work if there ever is a happenstance for that. 8 minutes in, we are driving fast. So that is our workflows with all the automated reminders. Let's go back to our My Task here, which we can see that beautiful yellow highlight that Amy picked out. Thank you for that. Now, what we'll notice is that all these tasks are under review, except this one that says Review PO Match. What this indicates is that our system automatically identified that open purchase order on the back end and attached the receiver data. Now, as we get that invoice up on the screen, you'll see how the system's set up. We have the image off to the right hand, header fields off to the left, and all the PO line or GL line information is down below. Now, this is going to be, of course, mapped to that of your Acumatica account. So all the header fields and chart of account information is going to be custom to you. Now, inside of this image, if I start scrolling over words or numbers, you'll see that bubble that pops up. That's our data extraction going to work to actually extract every single piece of text data off of this image. It archives it, and off of that archive, it uses algorithms, also called AI, to mimic human behavior. It identifies things like invoice date and pulls that information over to the header field. If I click into the header field, that pink highlight turns to yellow, so I can see exactly where it extracted that information from. And of course, as I tab through, it's going to jump around onto the page to fill out, to show me exactly where it found that information. If it does miss anything like a due date, which we could always drive from your vendor terms, which would never be missed, but if it ever is missed, we can always just highlight over that and click, and it pulls that information over for us. Now we have a team of people who actually analyze those clicks, so that way they can continuously improve our algorithms and capture that information. Now, as we can see from our purchase order match here, our total amount of $112.29 does match our total amount of our invoice. So we know that this is a good three-way match that we can submit off. Let's go ahead and submit this, and we'll focus on our next invoice in the series here. Our next invoice in the series is going to be General Petroleum. This is a great example of a non-purchase order invoice that we can see has extracted all of the header fields. And then down below has actually filled in 3 accounts with all the chart of account information for us. The reason for this is because the last time General Petroleum was allocated through our org unit or branch, USA Yooz Demo, it was allocated to these 3 lines. Now it's up to me how I fill out these lines. I could use that click and recall to fill out the actual line information itself, or I could use mathematical equations. Maybe we need to do a 3-way split. Let's take 2448, divide that by 3, and hit our arrow, and it'll actually split that out for us. You can actually do percentages as well. We'll submit this one off, and we'll start really flying here with 4 minutes remaining. We have another advanced duplicate detection that we can have. So we're going to skip that one just for demo purposes and focus on the duplicate, which we can see here from this view of document, which one our technology is telling you is a duplicate. We can cross-reference. We can see the invoice ending 1845, invoice number, total amounts, and the vendor is all the same, so we can delete it out as a duplicate. We also can do, excuse me, multi-currency and multi-language. This is a French invoice. I don't know French, but thank goodness our system does. As you can see, it took that document date from European standard, which is day, month, year, and automatically flipped that to US standard or North American standard with the month, day, year. Also picked up it's in euros, did exchange rates based on the document date, and spit out my converted rate to send to Acumatica. If you guys already have exchange rates that you want to use, we can always default those into the back of the application. Last but not least, just for timing's sake, we do have if a vendor does not exist inside of Acumatica, it is going to flag it inside of Yooz. Hey, this vendor does not exist. What we can then do is just block this particular invoice. We can put missing information, and then we could actually @ individuals. We have unlimited users within the system. So if you want to have an ERP admin and or your purchasing team that's responsible for onboarding those vendors, you could @ that individual, which would send them a notification of the question or comment that that user has left. We then can close this out and save it. And it goes right into our block section there. Switching gears. Approval processes. Approvals can be done, of course, within the desktop version. We also have a dedicated mobile app where approvers can get push notifications on the way. They can individually go in and look at each of the invoices that they need to approve, give it a good once over, and they can approve or reject these particular invoices. Now, if they didn't want to look at it one by one, we could do a bulk approval by coming to our complete box. It'll show everything that's ready for approval. We could actually categorize that by total amount just by clicking that column. And let's say I want to release everything under $100. We process that automatically. And if this is the final approval in your workflow, it's going to hit the GL inside of your Acumatica. Then kick off the payment authorization. Now, since we have 2 minutes remaining, the payment authorization is literally just another approval, except instead of approving, you're authorizing for payment. That payment is going to be released based on your vendor preference. If they receive paper check, we'll send paper check. If it's ACH, and VCC, if they have their merchant account set up, we do send the VCC payment or virtual credit card. Now you get a 0.6% cash back on all those VCC rates, which we have clients have actually utilized those rebates to more than pay for their solution itself. And we're actually cutting them checks at the end of each year. I know that's exciting. Last but not least, quick searches. If I type in the word drum, it does a Google-like search on all my invoices, and it pulls up General Petroleum. The reason why is because the word drum is inside of the actual invoice itself. This is great to do quick searches for invoice numbers, PO numbers, total amounts, contact names, heck, an item. On top of that, you can also use that Google-like search to build out reports. We can put any type of rule in place we want to see that particular report in search. And if we build out a search that we need on a weekly or monthly basis, we can hit that star button and actually name it there. That particular search would then go to our homepage of our search engine. Last but not least, and I know I'm at the end of my time, is statistics. This is where our competition hides. They hide all the statistics far away so you can't see them. We put it right into a forefront for you. As you can see, a client that we're pulling data from is almost up to 96% header field extraction rate, which is industry shattering. Industry standard is 75%. Out of the box uses 83%. And that particular client has a couple of tips and tricks we'll tell you about if you give us a call.
Well, thank you so much, Casey. That nagware, do they make that for, your husband and spouses or significant others?
If they did, I wouldn't give it to my wife.